All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, I want to start off by saying I really appreciate you both taking the time to meet today. My role in this conversation is going to be to let you two speak to each other, and I'm going to do my best to intervene as little as I can. Now, just to recap the rules that we've already agreed on. First off, we won't be using any power plays, meaning neither of you are going to try to reach a conclusion that's one-sided. The goal here is to find a solution where you both win, okay? The other rule is that we will not be using any walkaways, meaning none of us are going to leave this room until we're able to reach that solution that we're shooting for. And I'll tell you that I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to solve this problem and get right back to enjoying our work. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So let's begin by going over why we're here. First off, I've noticed there's some tension recently between the two of you regarding our new reporting process. There have also been some confrontations on the floor about the additional QA steps, which could be slowing down the pace of work, the quality of that work, and might even be affecting the morale of the other employees on the team. I wanted to have us get together to walk through these issues and hopefully reach an agreement that works for everyone and allows us to continue doing great work and keep us and the department running smoothly. So with that, Bess, I'd like to turn to you and have you tell us how you're feeling right now about this situation.
Okay, so I've been working for 10 years with this company, and I've had glowing reviews from my superiors prior to this, and I've had very little errors in my work for my fraud analyst work. I have my master's degree. I'm extremely well qualified for this position, and the new policy is really slowing me down, and I also feel like I'm being almost demoted because I'm back at a junior analyst level when I'm really more of a senior analyst. And for whatever reason, these new hires think they're on the same level that I'm on, and I'm just not happy with the process. I think it's crazy to me. It's ridiculous.
I guess that's to me. I feel like the argument that we had on the floor, I mean, it was heard by everybody else, and I think that should have really been taken into behind a closed door where we could have talked about that privately. Instead, it's put a lot of pressure on me because now all the juniors are feeling inadequate and subpar, and that's putting a lot more stress on me and in order to have to manage that. And I think that part at least could have been avoided.
So if we're looking at a situation where there was a conflict between you two and it happened in front of the other employees, tell me more about that. How do you think, Denise, that it could have been better handled?
Well, I mean, we could have like gone into a closed door meeting in a conference room or something where no one else needed to hear that confrontation. I mean, I get that Bess is well qualified, and I do acknowledge her credentials and everything that she brings to the position. But at the same time, this policy isn't coming from me, it's coming from higher up, and everybody has to abide by it. So I think we should have kept this, or, Bess could have voiced her concerns, not where everybody could hear it, because that does affect, like I said, the junior employees who are now feeling not good enough, and that of course puts pressure on me, and I have to calm them down, and I just want Bess to calm down and work as a team with the rest of us.
So Denise, if I understand, you're feeling blamed for something that you might not necessarily have control over, which might mean that you're not necessarily being seen fairly, right? You're being looked at maybe as if you're in control of this process, but you don't feel that you necessarily are?
Yeah, and I'm also in a position to where, I know that I'm not a fraud analyst. I haven't been doing this as long as Bess. I'm well aware of that. But at the same time, I am managing this team. So, to make it easier for me, I need everybody to get along. I need confrontations to be kept at a minimum, or any concerns voiced privately, or, coming here, basically. But I think this also could have been avoided if we had just gotten this out, between us.
Well, Denise, I apologize. I recognize that it wasn't appropriate to call the situation out for what it was in the heat of the moment. I wish I had handled that better. However, I still stand by my position. I do feel like this policy needs to be reevaluated and implemented a little bit better, which kind of falls in your lap because you are the management here. I'm willing to work with you on that, but I'm not willing to give up my position here because to me, it's really unfair to be treated like I'm in, my 30-day trial period as a new hire here. When I've been here for 10 years and I've proven myself over and over again, and I have a lot of expertise, I'm willing to jump in and help with train the junior analyst or do whatever it takes, but I'm not willing to be treated like a junior analyst when I'm not a junior analyst. And I'm not willing to slow down my flow, my process, just to accommodate this policy that's not maybe that well thought out from the higher ups.
Okay.
So that aspect, it sounded like you mentioned an option of maybe helping some of the junior people on the team with some training to bring them up to a higher level. So maybe they're not necessarily judging your work from a different lens than you have with the experience that you have. Is that something, Denise, that you think might be a good option to improve the quality of reviews that Bess has to go through and maybe shorten the time that it takes?
Well, I think, first of all, I apologize if you felt like you're being treated like a junior person. You're really not. And I hope I never gave that impression, but we all have to abide by this policy. So regardless of what level we are, it's just how it's going to have to go. But I think it might be helpful if we would have to take a slight step back in Bess's case, because the juniors, I feel, can really look up to her and learn from her. So I think if we could maybe, Bess, being that you are a senior, if we could maybe have you work with the juniors on occasion to help review and everything. And by them reviewing your things, it's actually an opportunity for them to learn from your reports and see how they should be done. So I would hope that you would see that as a benefit to them, not necessarily them picking you apart, because obviously they don't know as much as you. But I know that they want to learn. I think they would be open to learning. I would just like to see you be open to taking the time to teach. Even though it might slow us down temporarily, I would hope everyone could learn quickly and rise up and to hopefully, get back to that level of productivity that we've had, or even better.
Okay, so I am willing to take on a mentoring or teaching role in some capacity. That would have to be obviously discussed more in depth at another meeting, as far as what that role would entail and how much more time commitment that's going to be on my end, and what my new responsibilities would be. That's fine. However, because we haven't had this policy in the past and I've had a very good track record, I do not want the junior analysts analyzing my work. I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't, because these are fresh college graduates. They really don't have experience, and it's going to give them the impression that they have a level of expertise that they really haven't proven to have yet. And it's not to say they couldn't be there someday, but they're not there yet. And so I just hope you take that into consideration here.
So it sounds to me like we have part of a conclusion, which is that, Bess, you're going to step up and help the junior analysts with training to get them to a level where they're operating closer to where you do. But we are here to reach a mutual conclusion, and I wonder if that might be a little one-sided, and that Bess is going to take on more responsibility, and yet that's not necessarily going to lighten the workload on her part. So Denise, from your perspective, what might be something that we can do while she's doing that could make her workload easier or make the process a little bit faster for her, since she's expressed that that's a frustration?
Well, what if we just kept things, your reports still have to be reviewed. They can continue to be, submitted to me and reviewed, but possibly not reviewed by the junior level people. What if we just use some of yours as examples, not to look for mistakes, but to learn from? And of course, we could look into, I could have to discuss this with upper management, but possibly not having them review yours, which might be a little bit out of the policy scope. But I'm definitely willing to look into that for you, so that you don't feel that you're being demoted in any way. That is not my intention, never has been. So I think we can look into a mentoring role for you and maybe evaluate what your role really is and what all that would entail.
Okay.
Bess, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm fine with that. That sounds good to me. And I don't want to be, I'm not trying to elevate my status to somehow better than everyone else. I'm not saying that at all, but someone in a senior analyst position, whether it's me or anyone else, should be treated a little bit differently than our new hires, I believe. And we need to streamline that process so it's fair across the board, no matter who gets hired, no matter who's been here for 10 years or 5 years or whatever. There needs to be a process so it's fair and there's no complaints about it. The junior analysts really, you know, everyone's always got an opinion about something, but they shouldn't really have that much pull right now as far as like, oh, I'm worried about, you know, mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes in the beginning. It's common, and they just need to understand that's just the learning process right now, and let's just get them up to speed as fast as we can and hope for the best with that. But I think we need to streamline this process and that would solve everything, in my opinion.
So it sounds like we've come to a conclusion that might be mutually beneficial in that, Bess, you're going to take on some additional responsibility in helping the juniors on the team get elevated to a level that you're at. After all the experience that you've had at the company, it seems like you have a lot to offer. But because that's going to add a lot to your daily process, Denise, it sounds like you're willing to potentially change the process for Bess, being that she's been there for so long and her work is so good, and look at potentially removing that third layer of review before her reports get to you, which I think would benefit Bess in that her process is going to move much quicker. Mm-hmm. Do you both agree that this is a conclusion that we can reach that's going to benefit you both?
I'm willing to try it and see how it goes, and then maybe revisit it in a couple of weeks, or, you know, however, 2 or 3 weeks or so, and see how that goes, see if there's an improvement and if that's working, or if we need to reevaluate and try something else.
Okay. I think we might need a little bit longer than 2 weeks to implement this properly. And I do think, as I was saying before, it should apply to all that are at the senior analyst position, not just myself necessarily. So I would like to see like the policy side worked on from higher management, and I would be a lot happier with that outcome.
Okay. I can work with that.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that we've been able to come to a conclusion that's going to work for both of you guys. And once again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down. I'm really excited for us to be able to get back to doing great work. And I just really appreciate the contribution from both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Have a good day.